Welcome back to the channel, guys. So today, finally going to be introducing a new project car to the channel, and it's going to be completely different than the last build that we did, and I am really excited to get started on it. Well, the car really isn't necessarily new to me since I have had it for about 2 years, but I've only put about 150 miles on it, and you may have noticed it sitting in the back of almost every single one of my videos for the last year and a half, or since I've really been making this channel, and it literally has just been sitting there neglected, so it's super unfortunate. This car is in amazing condition for the year and really hasn't had anything done to it. It's a California car originally, and it is completely stock and has pretty much zero rust on it. I'm really excited to start working on this car and to finally turn it into more of a daily driver. This isn't going to be a full restoration because I cannot do a full restoration in this garage without outsourcing quite a bit of the work. So it's going to be pretty much as best as I can suffice in this tiny garage, but also preserving the car and making it the way that it should be. So it's not going to be crazily modified or anything like that. It's going to be put back to stock and pretty much kept that way with everything numbers matching, pretty much completely original. I want to keep original paint, stuff like that. I don't want to go overboard with like a lot of people do with these things, like throw an LS or anything in there. It's not the plans with this one. Maybe with like an older one, like a 78 or something like that, like a 280Z. But this is a pretty early 71. It's not a Series 1Z. But it is pretty early. I think the VIN number is about 21,000, so it's a really early Z. And it would kind of be a shame to ruin it since it has a number matching engine, number matching trans, everything like that. Matches this car as it is, and it is almost completely stock. The only thing different on the car is the wheels. So I do have quite a bit of stuff that I want to do to it, but most of it is going to be just making it better than it is now and help the car last for a lot longer than it will. Because it wasn't undercoated at all from the factory because it's a West Coast car. Luckily, that's what they did on the West Coast because they don't really have to worry about corrosion as much. So there's no underbody protection at all on this thing. I live on the East Coast, so if I'm going to start driving it or even just keeping it out here, for it to not rot away like all the other Zs, it really needs some sort of protection, and it needs the little spots of rust that it actually has to be fixed before I start worrying about driving it or anything like that. Now I'm going to show you guys the car a little bit better because I know that little clip that I had in the beginning wasn't really enough, and I kind of want to show you guys exactly how clean this is so you can really appreciate it, because honestly this is going to save me a lot of work because there's not a lot of rust repair that I got to do to it. Now if you know Zs, you probably know some of the common rust spots that these have, and it does have one of the more common rust areas. That's the battery tray. I'll show you that in a second, but just so you can see how clean these frame rails are. Like, look at that. Completely uncoated. Just beautiful looking frame rails. Wheel wells are super clean. A little bit of surface rust and stuff that you can see on there are really all from me just having it out here for the last couple of years and not treating it. The whole underside of the car is immaculate. The frame rails are completely straight and stock. So there's no like crappy patches in the floor or anything like that. But I do need to fix the... Gotta fix those hinges too. There's a lot of little stuff. As you can see, the engine is nasty looking, but it is completely stock. Nothing has been touched on this thing at all. I don't even know when the last tune-up was because it runs kind of like crap too. Definitely probably needs points, which I'll probably go away from. But the issue with this is it does need a new battery tray. That is like the only significant amount of rust is down there. And that's pretty typical for any Datsun to have, so not that hard of a fix to do. Definitely have seen a lot worse Z's, and have owned a lot worse Z's in the past. I've had a couple of later ones that were pretty sketchy that I actually drove quite often. Yeah, just little stuff. This side's pretty clean. Don't really have to wear anything. Want to clean up the engine, make it look nice, but nothing crazy. Upgrade the cooling, stuff like that, to make this thing a little bit more reliable to drive. But everything, as you can see, is completely stock on this thing. And then this side looks the same. Super clean, super nice, and you don't have to worry about it. It's got the nice blue interior that is pretty rare for these things to have. The seats are in really good condition. There are some little tears. Door cards are in good condition. Headliner, all that is in pretty good condition. The biggest issues are the plastic pieces back here. A lot of those are cracked or completely faded, as you can see. They don't really make blue anymore. You can dye it, but I've never actually done anything like that, so we might try that later on. The steering wheel, I've got a better Datsun steering wheel. It's actually wood. I'm not sure what they did with this weird wrap. There was a lot of weird stuff with this car when I first got it. The dash is very typical for these things. It is completely destroyed, but everything else is in pretty dang good condition, for sure. And let's see if I can lift these up. Yep, you can see how clean the floors are. Floors are super clean, so I'm really excited to actually start working on this thing. All right, now that you guys have seen the car a little bit better, you'll definitely see that it's not going to be that much work to get this thing a little bit more roadworthy and looking a lot better than it does currently. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to cut corners and that I just kind of want to rush this thing. I want to take my time, fully strip a lot of stuff, and do a really good job on it. So the plan to start is going to be pretty much removing all of the rear and the front components off the car for like steering, suspension, diff mount, stuff like that. Stripping it all the way to bare metal and then throwing on some chassis paint on there, doing a good job, making sure that we get a good adhesion with that and really help keep those components in good shape for a long time. And then new bushings are going to go in. I've got coilovers for it. That's probably the only modifications that I'm going to do to this is just weld on some coilovers to the car instead of just going with some lower end springs, because I think they look good with stock height, but just a little bit lower, and really make the car look a lot better. But like I said, no crazy modifications, so no fender flares or anything like that. This thing has immaculate fenders, so there's no reason to cut them up, especially when there's not very many of them and the prices for them are just skyrocketing. Then we'll probably start on bodywork, stuff like that on the car. I'm not very good at bodywork, and as you've seen on my rally car, if you've seen those videos, I don't really care too much about how the car looks. But that's rally car. This is more of a everyday driver type thing, or at least a fair weather type driver, but stays in the garage all the time. And then we'll start doing all the little stuff like getting the engine put back together, cleaning it up, and trying to make it run a little bit more reliably, tuning the carbs, getting rid of the point system, and all sorts of good stuff like that. But anyway, I don't want to make this video crazy long. Just want to do an intro to the build that's going to be coming up. Should be pretty regular. Videos should be coming out about once every week, probably on Saturday, depending on my schedule, but should be pretty good. Probably going to take a while to get done, but the rally videos might be a little bit on hold because of the progress that I'm going to be making on this. But it's still going to be a lot of fun to build this thing and actually see it progress as the videos go along. So make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, so that way you don't miss any of the updates on this build. It's going to take a long time for me to get there, but it's going to be a lot of fun along the way. And this doesn't mean that the rally videos are going to go away. They're going to be a little bit on hold, but the car really doesn't need anything anyway, and I can't do any rallies for a while. So this is what's going to be taking priority. So don't go anywhere. Plan on the channel getting much bigger and doing a lot more stuff in this next year coming up. So definitely stay tuned for all of that, and we'll see you guys with the next video coming out next week.